Demo day. I was looking at our YouTube channel, and our demo days have gotten we have quite a few videos on there. It's going to be interesting to get an AI to summarize all of them. Pull up screenshots.
How long are they usually?
How what?
How long are they? Like the videos?
Like an hour. It's like an hour video every 2 weeks for the last 2 years. It's
A lot of processing.
That's gonna be expensive.
Cool. Well, we are making forward progress on our new product. Ikra, you want to start with publishing? I think it'd be cool to see what it all looks like.
Yeah, sure. So I was gonna ask Carl, do you have a specific notebook here that would be, I don't know, I can publish them.
Yeah, take the generic builder dashboard. It is the one that is that one. Yep.
So it's pretty simple to publish. Let me. Oh.
Yep, I'm in it. It's okay.
So how to publish? Let me just first check how it looks like. Okay. Oh, this one looks cool. So to publish one, you just need to come here in this publish, and this model will show up, and you will click publish here. And now it seems that it's stuck, but it's actually processing on the back end a very intensive job. So it can take a while.
It takes a while. I've been thurned off.
At some point, we want to turn that into an async process. Yes.
What happens if I close the tab right now?
Yeah, does it?
I think. Well, that's a question to Next.js. I don't know. We'll close it. Closing the connection, stop the function from running.
Yeah, I guess that's a Vercel question. I have no idea.
Yeah. I have no idea as well. But yeah, it would be good if we moved, we can move these to anywhere, right? If we run on Lambda or in our backend, in our Kubernetes cluster.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's still running, but have faith.
It works.
You said this would be quick, Igor.
It does work.
One thing that would be cool.
There it is.
Yeah.
And now if let me let me share my entire screen to be easier. So now I just opened incognito tab, and we'll open the dashboard. See how quick.
Nice.
Looking good.
That's cool.
Oh, it didn't. Actually, it's missing some parts.
Oh, really? Wait. What part?
I think it didn't have time to load this before publishing.
Ah.
Oh. Wait, you mean the Vercel thing timed out? Wait, no, that doesn't make sense.
No.
The rendering stopped early.
Oh.
Yes, we wait until everything is. We try to wait until everything is rendered, right? But maybe this part is complex that it took a while to render, and then we didn't wait.
Oh, because we don't have a signal to tell you when it's done rendering, right? That's part of the problem. Okay.
Well, don't you look for the color of the button or something?
Yes, but I think what happens is Marmo already stopped processing, but still this hasn't rendered yet.
Got it.
Because
actually, I don't even know that. Then that's not. Yeah, me adding a thing there is not going to solve that.
Yes.
We just add a timeout. Yeah.
Yeah. Huh. I need to increase the timeout or something.
And what happens when you press the buttons in the HTML view?
Oh, nothing.
But the CSS for hoovers and stuff, they exist, which is very interesting. I mean, I kind of like that. That's kind of funny. Except for the
I
fact-
wonder. Oh, I was just saying. I wonder if it has like
Tooltips.
these tooltips, but they don't. That's sad. Would be cool if there were tooltips.
This is a step in the right direction.
Step in the right direction,
This is
for
a step
sure.
in the right direction, yeah. This is cool. Still,
And
regardless.
yeah, all the play buttons, the save buttons, they're just flat and
Yeah.
unfun, right?
Yeah. I didn't find a way to remove this from the render, like remove the UI.
And this is all stored in R2 right now?
Yes.
Cool.
Oh, actually, no. It's stored in Supabase. Storage.
Okay.
And yeah, that's it for publish. And you can unpublish here. This one should be quick.
What's the easiest way to determine the status, right?
Oh,
Like one thing we probably want to do is for the publish dialog to only show one action based on what the current status is.
sorry, what do you mean? Like,
Well, it's
which-
either published or not published right now, right? What's the easiest way for me to determine the status of the published state? So, because the dialog, you only want to show one button, depending on if you're published
Well,
and you want to publish, or
you can always publish, but yeah, unpublish, yeah, should be there should be more information here, like last published at
Right.
X.
yeah, like yeah, exactly, last published.
And like undo this if it has never been published. Yeah, I think that's not available yet.
But where would I get that information if I wanted that?
Oh, it's in Supabase.
But it is not linked. Wait, it's in Supabase. Is there a OSO app client fetcher or a GraphQL fetcher to get any of this metadata yet?
No,
Okay.
it's just a table. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, more things to talk about on the GraphQL side when we get there.
Yep.
Cool. Awesome.
Yes, and aside from that, yeah, I'll talk about PulseHog, which is how we are tracking errors and how you can track. I think everyone is invited here. I can be wrong, but I think that's right. And then to access the errors from our Discord here, these errors here will appear in this project in the error tracking section. And filter out test internal and test users. So these you will get only the errors that real users face. Yeah, I wish there was a URL here, but I couldn't figure out how to add one here. Yeah, I think everyone should check if they have access here.
Wait, hold on. I'm seeing different errors than you.
Or
Sorry.
did you filter out the test users?
Oh, filter out test users. Okay. Oh, okay. Hold on. Let me compare now. Missing credentials. Yeah, fields not present. Okay, cool. That looks right. Interesting. Cool. All right. Well, at some point, we're going to have to triage these.
Yes. Front end errors, man. They're
The best kind. The best kind.
yeah. That's it for now.
Cool.
Who's next?
All right, I think that's me. Well, thank you, Ikaro. I have been a frequent user of the publish command. As you can see, that one that we just did was published. Let me explain a little bit more about what this notebook does here. It's a hopefully pretty easy to configure generic builder dashboard where you can change a few things at the top like the collection that you care about, the source that you want to look for data on, a set of metrics, and then a period of time that you care about. There's a few ways that you can kind of map the names that are in our metrics registry to a more human readable one that can be displayed as a table. Any kind of transformations that you want to do. This is an example of basically taking revenue and converting it from WEI to ETH and then multiplying that by the exchange rate to get a US dollar amount. But in any case, ideally all a user would need to do is do their config over here, and then they can get a pretty dashboard like the one that Ikura was demoing, which allows you to toggle between different metrics. Let's go from user events to users. And you can see not only like the overall trend over the past year or whatever time period, but then you can get a leaderboard. And then you can also see changes in the leaderboard over the past year. So in this example, Uniswap has been at the top of the list in terms of users for the past year on base. If we switch to something like TVL, you can see this has gone up. There's been much more kind of change at the top of the list. And yeah, it's a nice, simple, hopefully easy to configure builder dashboard, which we can fork and show to a variety of new customers that are interested in the same data sets.
So just clarifying on these, might be useful to have like FAQs and tooltips. Like when you talk about user events, are you talking about 4337 stuff, or are you talking about like transactions?
Yeah, in this case, it would be either it would be any kind of user ID. In this case, it would just be the Farcaster. If this were world chain, it would be world chain users. And then the events represent any transaction either from an EOA or that's been bundled.
Wait, I'm confused. Like, I think the first thing I would do if I look at this, if I'm one of these chains, is are you undercounting, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when you say Farcaster may not be as relevant on, say, I don't know, Inc. or something like that. So yeah, I guess I'm still trying to understand, well, how do you define user event?
They just map to our metrics here. So in this particular case, the users is Farcaster users, because that's pretty important for base. If we did this for world chain, we would change this to world verified users, and you could give it another name like world users. Contract invocations, that represents things that are both through account abstraction and through a normal EOA.
Yeah, that's clear. I think, yeah, just a tooltip to kind of see how things are defined would be really helpful.
I don't think
like
Marzo lets us do tooltips, unfortunately.
Marimo doesn't have tooltips? Lame.
Thoughtly does, but not Marimo, I don't think.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me get on that, right? Yeah.
Lame. Or in the subtitle at least, like a little description of what it is. So yeah, contract invocations is much more clear. Farcaster users, are you changing the metric depending on which chain is selected?
So the way our metrics work is that this will look for any activity on base that is associated with the Farcaster user.
But what if it's not associated with Farcaster user?
Then the users will not show up.
Right. And then when
addresses one, which would count addresses separately.
When you select world, do you have to go into into this definition and change Farcaster users to world verified users?
Yes, I would have to configure those things.
I see.
We can make this interactive, so you can have a drop down of ones.
Yeah, I would say this is one of the reasons why our unified user model is going to be really powerful, right? Because I think what you actually want is the union of any user definition that could possibly exist.
Yep.
And
we don't have that yet.
Yeah, we don't have that yet. But when we do have that, it's going to be awesome, because then you can just like, I was like, okay, our user definition is the union of all Farcaster, Lens, ENS, world verified users, all these other things. And here's a clear list of where we're getting this data from. And, that's how you know whether we're undercounting or not. And if we're missing one, there's a clear call to action on how to add a new user definition, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll get there. But that's cool.
We'll get there. a variant of this. Again, the point here was just to have something that's pretty easy and interesting that we can take to potential partners to queue up a POC. Here is a version which looks at developer data. Again, I'm not optimizing for the metrics we select. I just picked a few that make sense. Again, using the Optimism collection name, you could put Protocol Lab, whoever you want. Here, we're looking at GitHub metrics, so that's why the event source is this. I'm not doing any fancy transformations. And we can see the same data. And now it's looking at GitHub data. And if you want to see where Open Source Observer is by active developers, we are, I don't know, somewhere in the top 20. We fell down in September, but over most of that period, we've been close to the top 20. Or whatever that means. And you could look at commits or something that's been going down. Again, Ruben, this is partly probably because of the GitHub change that happened in May. I think that affects these things, but it affects everyone the same way. So in any case, a very simple variant on the same structure.
Cool. Man, how far? I feel like we're not that far from side-by-side comparisons. Remember we had an issue for that like 2 years ago, like building a web app for side-by-side comparisons. And this would be, much easier here.
That'd be easy. Okay, this is kind of like side-by-side comparisons. I'm going to switch gears now to the TVL analysis we've been doing for Optimism. This we presented last week. Ray, you saw this already, but for those who didn't, it's kind of the culmination of a couple of different data sets that we have. So obviously we start with, actually, let me just open this. So we have the superchain data, we have DeFi Llama data, we have OSS directory where we are mapping these two things together, and then obviously all the OSO stuff that is creating the metrics from these. Oh, if you haven't seen the table of contents view, I actually find it pretty useful, especially for these types of notebooks. So you can jump around, and I tend to put like the methodology, the analysis section at the bottom. Anyway, so this graph over here is basically showing since the launch of the superchain, how TVL has really increased from less than 1 billion to close to 7 billion right now. This is before the ADL in October. Yeah, like right before. In any case, that will probably get down a little bit. But you can see the different verticals, which DeFi Llama has labeled. They have a pretty messy version, so there's some data cleaning that we've done to make this a bit more easy to understand. But you can see that there's really just two main sources of TVL, decentralized exchanges and lending protocols. The next thing that you can see is that fee revenue over the past year or so has been pretty stable relatively. It used to be a lot more spiky, and there were some real big spikes around March 2024. But now things are kind of averaging around half an ETH per day in L2 fees. And you can kind of take a ratio of, sorry, that's per every 100 million in superchain TVL. So effectively, as the amount of DeFi activity increases, the hypothesis is there'll be, a pretty linear increase in the amount of fees that you're getting. Maybe that's coming down a little bit as gas has gotten cheaper, but in general, there's roughly half a ETH you can assume for every 100 million in TVL that you see over time. Now, the other thing to note in the case of Optimism is that depending upon which chain the activity is happening on, they have a different revenue sharing agreement. So it's happening on OP mainnet, 100% of that revenue goes back to fund Optimism Collective. If it's happening on Base, only 15% does. So the other big change that has happened is that previously when OP mainnet was the only chain, they captured 100% of the revenue. And now as more of it is moving to Base and other super chain partners, they're getting less of that revenue. So that's kind of important for their strategy. High level, a DEX generates much more revenue than a lending protocol. Here you can see for DEXs, TVL in the blue, and red represents the fees. on that particular day. Again, you can see these are reasonably correlated, but in general, for every DEX, you have 0.8 ETH for every 100 million in TVL versus 0.005. So it's an order of magnitude difference. And I think that makes sense. DEXs, people are swapping very, very small amounts of tokens, typically, a lot more retail activity, whereas lending, the activity tends to be much less frequent. You'll basically deposit some collateral, you'll take out a loan, and then you're probably not coming back a few minutes later and doing something with that. So this makes sense, but it's important to note that not all TVL is equal in terms of driving revenue for the chain. Similarly, you do see more activity on DEXs than on lending protocols, and that is obviously linked to how much revenue they generate. Let me pause quickly and then I'll continue. Any questions so far? Hopefully helpful if you're kind of new to.
I'm curious, like, I totally agree with all these conclusions, but is there a short policy recommendation, right? Like the wrong policy recommendation is don't DGAF lending, right? Like lending is nothing to us, like don't care about it. I don't think it's the right policy recommendation. Right. But that unfortunately the incentive, like when people like get solely focused on if you get solely focused on TVL, you look at the world a certain way, and when you get solely focused on sequencer revenue, you look at the world a certain way. And both of those extremes are also wrong. So is there a clear recommendation for how do we think about this?
I think recommendation number one is you should view them separately. Obviously, TVL is good in that it brings liquidity, and that is good generally, right? On the other hand, if you're thinking about a grant size, then you should be, you should be using different assumptions depending on whether you think it's going to bring more lending TVL versus DEX TVL. And like specifically the deal that they're considering right now would involve bringing on a lot of lending TVL. And so specifically what they want out of this, and I can jump ahead to that part, is looking at the list of their most successful projects right now, finding a few that are probably the best comparables for that kind of a deal. And I think in that case, it's probably more like, again, it's lending. So it's probably more like a Morpho or an Aave. And you can see even there's like a pretty decent spread. So Morpho, it's 0.22 per 100 million, and Aave, it's 0.76, right? So even there, similar protocol, so to speak, but this one drives 3 times more fee revenue. So it's not to say that one is better than the other. They have different architectures and different types of user activity, but basically saying you might want to use this perhaps as your lower bound and this is your upper bound, and then you can make some assumptions about how much TVL you will get over a 90-day period, 1-year period, etc. And from that, the thing that they do care about is some projection of how much revenue we might be able to get over the lifetime of a deal. So maybe this is for them to decide. Do you want to look at this as having a 5-year payback, a 10-year payback? What's the risk of churn, et cetera? Those are things that we're going to help them model, but ultimately will be the business decisions that determine how much revenue they think they can reasonably project for one of these deals. And then what are they prepared to pay for that? That's a separate question.
I think what's interesting to me about this is we remember we had that conversation about different metrics to measure economies and whatnot. And, we had like I forget which issue it is, but we have a running list of things that we want to do that could like shift the conversation, shift the tone of the industry. I think the one that, I don't know when is the right time to do this, but one that we might want to revisit is GDP. Because I think it is fundamentally different than both of these things, right? Sequencer fee is basically taxation. Like I'm only measuring what I can tax, and I can't tax loans. So does that mean that my economy is small? No, it doesn't, right? But at the same time, measuring TVL is so specific to supply side. Like it's so specific to and the thing that I think, not a non-economist, point of view, is that GDP measures more like consumption and value flow, right? Like if I'm lending to you and then you lend to me, like you're measuring the flow of value in a way that TVL can't capture and sequencer fees can't capture. And so there's something here. I don't know if there is an easy systematic way to measure these things, but I feel like there's something missing, you know, that could be a cool opportunity to shift like the industry's conversation in a more mature.
Hold that thought. I think next week, if we do for our reading group the A16Z crypto report, you can see how they are trying to get at this type of a thing. And I completely agree that if we're able to come up with a better measure, or at least like a starting point that the industry can use, it will become a Schelling point. Either for people throwing tomatoes and saying this is a terrible idea, or actually people contributing and trying to enrich it and make it better. Obviously, one of the things that's very, very hard in crypto is knowing if I am moving money from account A to account B, am I doing payroll? Am I giving someone revenue? Or is it just Ray moving money from his 2 different wallet addresses? You don't know, and you're never going to know. But we can try and measure those things or assign a probability.
Well, I don't know that you will never know. I think what we are I think what we're effectively doing is we're basically, with OSSD, we are organizing the world, the universe, into an organized world and an unorganized world, right? In an organized world, I know all of these addresses relate to a project. In an unorganized world, it's conflated. In an organized world, I actually know like this cluster of addresses is a user and the money goes into this user. Like if money moves between this cluster and that cluster, that represents value transfer between different entities, right? And so to the extent that this stuff is on chain and people don't care about their privacy with stuff on chain, I think the more we can disambiguate these things, there will increasingly become like in certain ecosystems, more things are organized than others. Like in world, more of the universe is organized. In in Ethereum, less of the world is organized. And so I think like if we have these crowdsourced models for how we're organizing things, I think you use the word Schelling point, and I think you said it in the context of
GDP measurement.
Yeah, like what is the mental model for how people measure economic activity? There's another form of a Schelling point, which is how do people organize their information in a way that becomes measurable by these metrics, right? And in an unorganized world, maybe it's just like trillions that are uncategorized, but in this other world, there's like trillions that are organized in terms of like GDP and all these other measures that are really valuable. I think like it becomes in itself becomes an incentive for people to start organizing their data in the way that you expect. So I think we shouldn't shy away from pushing for best practices. And if we can show that by organizing data in a certain way helps you understand it in a more mature way, I can see a world where people, start steering things in that direction.
Yeah, 100%. And I think if we want to align that with the types of conversations that are happening, much more broadly right now, I think stablecoins would be the place to look initially, just because there's, number one, you don't have the exchange rate issue, like it's all dollars, which is very nice. And number two, there's like a very, the soundbite right now is that stablecoins have become one of the top 10 assets around the world, right? And I think that the amount in stablecoins right now is like 4th in the world after Germany and Japan, and I don't know, the size of the stablecoin economy is like on par with some of those economies. But a lot of that is really just people rebalancing central exchange accounts and stuff like that. And so being able to get a good measure of how much that represents actual internet commerce or net new or activity that is being substituted from credit card merchants or from cash payments and stuff like that is a pretty valuable problem for people to answer.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Yeah.
Let me just close this out. Here we get at some initial ratios of the lifetime value in CAC. This is basically assuming that every project is going to live for 10 years and the lifetime value, or that's lifetime value, and what you have spent in terms of grants represents the CAC. This will be refined. Thomas is working on that right now, but you can get some basic ratios over here. And then finally, this is an area that I've been messing with a lot recently, is just coming up with labels of cohorting things based on activity, based on other heuristics. I'll show something next, which takes a more machine learning based approach to categorizing things. But I feel like a lot of our kind of interesting examples will be trying to take a set of projects and cluster them in some ways. And last, some data candy. This is the graph of each of these protocols. You can see when they got their first grant, and you can see how much they brought in since then. If you were to be like giving the Grants Council a scorecard, I would say they've actually done a pretty decent job in a lot of these. Like you look at Aave and Boom, that led to a pretty big influx. Uniswap, it's a bit hard to see because this is a very low baseline and it's much higher now. But in general, you can kind of see how the Grants Council did in timing their first grants to these projects, either based on track record or based on a promise that they were going to bring auto TVL. So yeah, that's this notebook. Last thing I'll share. Oh, sorry, I hit the wrong button. So Ruben, this was the thing that you were wrestling with yesterday. It's basically taking the clustering algorithm that Dennis at OP Labs developed, and number one, getting it to run a notebook. That's pretty easy. And then number two, creating a production version that we can run in SQL Mesh. And so here's kind of what that looks like right now. Again, there's not a huge amount here. It runs pretty quickly. You can see, we assign different clusters. I haven't labeled what these clusters actually mean, but you can see kind of the growth over time and which ones are more or less prevalent. There's ways of evaluating the quality of the model and tweaking some of the parameters and so on. But ideally, you can basically configure a model in a pretty minimal amount of parameters, and then obviously evaluate the quality of it in a notebook. What I'd love to get to is actually being able to create a production version of that reasonably easily. And right now, again, this is the thing that you were wrestling with yesterday. It's actually pretty difficult to translate all these things and get it to run efficiently in SQL Mesh. So in any case, we don't need to go into this now, but it'll kind of be good to think through what are the right ergonomics here for a data scientist to get a model working, test it, and then have a version that they can deploy.
Yeah, we were talking about the complexities of handling basically Python modeling inside our application, and what that's going to look like, because for developers think about writing code in such different ways, I think, that was our assertion last night.
Yeah.
About this. For us, it's like, oh yeah, we're fine versioning things, we're fine breaking things out into multiple modules, multiple files.
Right.
But then the general question is like, why is anything in a notebook, and why is the notebook more ergonomic for a data scientist than writing just Python?
Yeah, my hypothesis, I'm curious if you agree with this, Carl, but my hypothesis is that data scientists are going to enjoy having everything in one place, but really fast navigation, like table of contents, search, et cetera, et cetera. Right. It's just nice to have everything in one place versus forcing them to separate it into, in a developer, you're taught in school, organize it into small files, and then you have directories, and you have to learn, and then you have to have separate functions for every little thing, and you want to have tests for every little thing, and then you have these hierarchies of different files, and a notebook then in our mind turns into a whole repository of a lot of different files, right? Every cell should be its own little file. And I don't think that's how data scientists work, but I don't know. Tell me if you disagree with that.
I mean, I'm probably not the best person to talk to because I don't know, I'm neither a developer nor a trained data scientist. But I have always gravitated towards creating modular things, which I can reuse. Which is not how typical data scientists think about it. You can see their code, and it's one massive.
Right. So I know, as developers, that isn't what we like. But I also, sometimes I wonder, is the right thing to do to help steer them in a better direction, or is the right thing to do to just help accelerate their craziness, right? And I think in this world, my hypothesis would be, yeah, better search functionality, better table of contents and way of organizing a giant file, better ways to navigate quickly through a notebook is like way more valuable than forcing them to create full code repositories.
If you reach a certain length lines of code in
Right.
like Cell, I'm gonna spin up a Clippy that just says, "Looks like you're writing something that needs to be multiple functions." just like
Clippy.
yeah. It's like you've reached 1,000 lines of code in this one block. You know?
Are you sure you want to do that?
Sure, yeah.
I don't know. I'm curious if you agree with my hunch. I'm not saying that it's necessarily that you represent all data scientists everywhere.
No,
but
I mean, I think I probably don't, like the way I think about it is probably very different than the average person. Like the average data scientist, they do not show their code to anyone, right? They just get it to run. And maybe once they're done, they will create a public version of it, right? But they will not be doing any versioning. They will not be doing any collaboration, right? And I think in many cases, they're simply embarrassed at the quality of their code. It runs, it does the job, but it's like super ugly. There's no comment.
This makes a lot of sense actually. If I'm thinking about it in that way, yeah.
yeah.
Huh.
It's not meant to be shared. It's more of my personal sandbox to
Like
explore.
I'm solving a problem. I'm not here to solve a code problem.
And
I'm solving some other.
I think this is probably
Weird.
why I think LLM integration in notebooks could potentially be even more powerful than
Yeah.
LLM integration into code, is
Yeah.
because like I am probably already copying pasting things back and forth from ChatGPT, and I don't care if it's clean code as long as it produces the graph that I want.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And, huh.
Anyway, I'm
Cool.
standing by that thesis. My product idea last night was instead of having like formal Python libraries, because I think the direction that you and Ruben were suggesting is, oh, let's create Python libraries, and then we can have like macros and abstractions of like, okay, I can publish a Python library, and then other people on my team can use my Python library. I was going to suggest something closer to Notion sync cells. Have you ever used those before?
No.
So basically in a Notion sync cell, I can say in these two documents, these cells, to just keep them synchronized, right? I can unlink them at any time, but otherwise they're synchronized. And that does two things. One is I can see the definition in line, right? And and maybe it's multiplayer. So as I'm editing this other one, I can see it get changed over here and how that affects my other code. So I never have to go to another page. I never have to go somewhere else. It's just all in one gigantic, multi-thousand line Python notebook. But I can see that it's connected to something else, and I can disconnect it if I feel like disconnecting it. And then I'm in my own space.
Yeah. I agree. I think that's Hex has something called snippets. I never experimented with it much because after 2 snippets, they start charging you for every snippet.
We just charge you for every sync cell and the network of the syncing.
But yes, that would already be hugely valuable because I will have styling parameters I just want to reuse, right? So I would love to be able to say, here's my like Plotly styling thing, and I can reference that cell in any notebook.
Yeah. So maybe like, I pull up an empty cell and I like have the ability to, read from a cell from another notebook. And then it's just like kept synchronized, right? And it can be in like read only mode or read write mode. Maybe you have a master slave kind of configuration kind of thing, but like, but you're not, I don't know. I'm not saying that this is the only way to go. Maybe the right thing to do is to build both and then test it. But like my suspicion is that that's going to be more immediately useful than like, oh, I have like an internal PyPy and I have the ability to publish internal functions to this organizational directory that needs to be versioned, because obviously if I publish a version that has a different function signature, I'm going to break everybody. So now I got to think about how to publish different versions. And it's just like, I don't know. I don't know that data scientists want that.
Data scientists hate versioning. They hate,
I mean, don't get me wrong.
I mean, everybody hates versioning, but like it.
I hate versioning.
But the difference is developers care about reliability and security, and data scientists probably don't. Like if things break, they break, and if you need to fix it, you go in and fix it, or you ask an LLM to fix it. But it's not like, my cloud's going to go down if there's a bug, right? It's not that kind of level of like criticality.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, these are just hunches. Obviously, I'm not saying I know for sure. It is just my guess.
No, I think we're pretty close.
Cool. Sorry, I think we got digressed.
no,
Ruben, do you want to just
Yeah.
show us the heartbeat thing real quick?
Yeah. So just go over this really quick. Do you mind switching microphone?
Yeah.
Cool. So So I guess my audio should be on as well, just in case there are questions. So the things that we have with the heartbeat. I don't know if you guys. Well, I guess Ikaro wasn't here the last week. So basically, what we did was I wanted a hacky way to be able to scale Trino down to 0. So I've been thinking about this kind of thing for a while, essentially like a rental system for any specific, type of infrastructure. So originally I designed this just for Trino, but now I actually realize we can just use it for anything in a very generic way. So this heartbeat thing, what it does is it just, it uses Redis. Since we already have Redis deployed, and it just stores like a key on there and then just continuously updates that with a timestamp. And then there's another job that runs. If you look in the assets, default assets. Again, this is hacky, so this is not meant to be super sexy, but it checks.
Are you sharing your screen?
Oh, sorry. Show my screen. Okay. I guess it was the wrong window. 1 second. I was sharing my screen. But I shared the wrong thing. Better? Cool. Okay. So, the heartbeat resource, there's a specific asset. Oh, sorry, this is the wrong thing. We go to Trino automation. So, and then this thing just checks for the heartbeat and then just reacts to, the heartbeat is some age. So all of the things are now attached to this producer Trino. So the way that I made this so that it works with multiple things is that the Trino Kubernetes resource has this context function called ensure available. So that works across all Trino resource, like generic Trino resources. So as long as you have that context, it will ensure that things are up, the heartbeat is running, and if that pod dies, if the job ends, or whatever, the heartbeat stops, and within 15 minutes, this Trino automation asset, this heartbeat checker, will kill the pod, or will kill Trino producer, excuse me. So pretty simple. So not too much, if you guys want to ask any more questions on that later, we can actually, any questions on that specifically? Cool. And so then the next thing, is just basically, if you look at, we made some changes to SQL Mesh. Let me review the success here actually, because it's kind of cool. So if you look at I thought I had this queued up properly. So if you go to jobs, SQL Mesh all assets, you view all recent runs. So this was last night. And ignore the stuff from Sunday. I think again, the spot instances on Sunday are probably very popular, like around midnight. So would be my guess is that we just kept getting killed, and that's why these things failed. And then so our current average, even with some new stuff, seems to be around the 1 hour 30 to 40 minute mark, within 2 hours. Before that, you can see this is the 23rd. We were at 2 hours 42, 22nd 2 hours 40, 46 42. And then actually even before that, This is like even older. This might be because we did some restating, but we have a 4-hour job from the 16th, and then there was also a couple of others that just ran for multiple hours. So yeah, I think we've done some really nice things. So let me just go over what those are. So first of all, we disabled some unneeded audits. I noticed that that we were running audits on a few things, like some of these views. They just don't need to have this at least n rows, because everything upstream of this, or downstream of this, sorry, upstream of this, is already doing these audits. And some of these audits took like 30 to 40 minutes, like just to run. Not this one specifically. It was the, I think it was the ones for time series metrics. Yeah, this one definitely took a long time. So what I did, and so this is just like a rule of thumb, I guess, for when you see these things. I left some of the views. I still left the audits, but that's only because those views actually did things that weren't just select statements. They actually did some filtering. So I do want to make sure that, you know, basically I'm just trying to ensure the correctness of any given view. So you might still want to disable that. It just sort of depends on what you want there. But yeah, this removed some significant amount of time. I had to change the factory as well, because some of these other ones are also pretty large, like a lot of the metrics related things, because they're joining so many different tables. So that was one of the big ones. And then the other one was actually optimizing the staging GitHub events. I think this shaved off like 20 minutes. But this one was the big one. The unneeded audits was the one that really like shaved like 40 minutes minimum. So together, yeah, we have about an hour off. But yeah, this one, it changed the
question on unneeded audits. I heard there's two things. One is in certain audits you're scanning more, like way too much data, and the other one is
unnecessary.
It's just unnecessary. Like, what was the
so for all of them, I actually felt like they were so the ones that were scanning too much data, they were also just duplicative, because the stuff that they were doing before
upstream.
Yeah,
Upstream would find it.
Exactly. So it was just completely unnecessary. Yeah.
One question that I have is, usually these audits are like, oh, have any data at all.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
Does it take so long to run if it's just like
yeah, so that is a question I have as well. Like one would think that if it just did like a limit one, it would just like finish at the first discovery.
Yeah.
Or just, collect all the counts of metadata. I think some of this might just be like back and forth with the with GCS, and however fast that may be. I'm not entirely sure what is specifically slow there. So I would love to look into that more, but at least just cutting it out, like eliminated all of that for now. So and then the GitHub stuff, originally we were looking back 31 days, which GitHub data is fairly large. So if we cut that, I cut that by a third, and that saved a bunch of time. So that's it for me.
Really nice.
It's nice to have everything running faster. I appreciate the feedback loop being quick. And this is one of the things, actually, I had asserted to you, Carl, which is why I'm also making sure that it does it this way. But you asked me for solutions of how we could make your life better at the end of the month, right? I was like, well, if we run it every day, like we'll feel the pain all the time. So and so that was part of me like noticing that and seeing that it was kind of painful, and then actually going and fixing things randomly. So so
it's nice. It's amazing being able to wake up and have SQL Match ready to go, and you can play and 15 minutes later you can get data.
Yeah. I guess one of the other small things is I was babysitting a couple of the jobs and I started noticing like nodes going down, up and down, which was really weird. And then I started looking into that, and I found that Kubernetes was giving out of memory errors. So that's when that's also when I made some other of those infrastructure changes. But yeah, you could also probably see that in the monitoring, but I did not look there because I didn't have to. So, but I would imagine if you ever have a cluster and nodes are like going up and down, yeah, out of memory errors is the most likely cause. Yeah, just because these systems try to keep themselves functioning. So, yeah.
Cool. All right, let's get into it on the GraphQL discussion. Maybe, do you want to start with what you currently have, or do you want to start with like your current research?
Yes, I can explain super quickly what I have, and I can give an example, and then we can go. Window, this one, share. Okay, so do you guys see this screen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. So let me go here into the code and let's open. So basically, what I'm going to show today is we are transitioning from this OSO app client into a new GraphQL subgraph where we will have all of our functionality for invites, organizations, and we want to stay away from Supabase, RLS, and start to do stuff server-side ourselves. Everything lives here in OSO Graph. And we have a couple of resolvers right now for invitations, members, organizations, etc. So let me open one to show you how it works. Every time that we create one of like these resolvers, we have different queries at the top level. What these do is they require authentication to see, for example, if you can actually access this resource. Let's see if you are from this organization. We then get the data and then we return it. One cool thing about doing this from scratch is that we solve a lot of pain points that we had in the past. I think one of the big ones are error handling. In the beginning, we just returned everything Supabase threw at us, and that kind of made really hard errors for people who are non-technical. Imagine you're saving a notebook, and the issue is, I don't know, something trivial, but then you get an error, SQL state. Yeah, people won't know how to report that, or they will know that it's transient. So I took good care into actually enumerating everything that can go wrong. If it's our fault, if it's an external service like the email service, if it's permissions, if it's that that resource doesn't exist. And this will give a way better error for the people so they can know what's happening. I also created some utilities so people can use them when they extend these resolvers, and all of them follow the same approach. And there's quite a few, as you can see. The schema looks like this, but I think I can let me show you how it works. So here we have the Apollo server here in GraphQL. And if you change here to OSO Graph, you should have you can query it. So let me change to like.
Gateway already route to both, like merge
Sorry?
both. Does the gateway already route to both?
No, you need to change the URL here. If I refresh, it will be by default to GraphQL, but you can change it. And since we have the token here and everything will be wired up for you.
That's what I'm saying. Isn't /GraphQL just a router? Like,
oh
shouldn't
yes,
it both?
Yeah, I did not change it, so you have to do that manual step. But yeah, I can take a look into it and let you choose.
I think ergonomically much nicer.
No, it's not about choosing. The whole point of the GraphQL endpoint is it's supposed to just be a union of every subgraph. It's a supergraph, right?
Oh.
So in the language, the supergraph is supposed to be the router that will automatically route to the subgraph that contains the thing that matters.
Yes, I did it like that the first time, but then I came into a problem that people will use that and they will see all of our internal methods. And I don't know if we want to like mix.
What do you mean internal methods? You mean things for the other
Like
like
I mean, as long as you have the correct policies based on your token, it shouldn't matter,
Yeah.
right?
I don't know that
All
yeah.
of our code is open source.
But
as well.
it is a bit annoying to have everything together, no?
yes.
Like if I want to search for stuff
Mm.
from the OSO app, I don't want to be scrolling down and seeing all the artifacts and whatever.
I
It's,
see.
Yeah, mainly I did it like that the first time, and then I saw that everything was mixed, and I didn't know if we want to people who are using like this sandbox, who are like trying to query production, they don't have to like know all our internal list invitations, get members, you know. I think it was like too messy in my opinion, but happy to change it. It's like a one line change.
I see.
Yeah, actually, I see the point. They're semantically very different as well, right? Like they're just the structure of both of those things are very, very different. So,
and also,
Yeah.
like Javi said,
I don't have a strong opinion here either. I'm just like, I just understand what the pain point is. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I think the supergraph subgraph way to do this would be with the prefix, right? So you have your OSO app prefix, and then it's all kind of in one place, so you can always fetch it. But what you're basically advocating for is two separate API endpoints, so that you just get the subgraph that you want. Either way.
We can discuss it. As I said, it's like a one line change that it already has all the prefixes, you know. So yeah.
You even if you add it to the supergraph, you can always pick which subgraph you want to talk to by just going to the subgraph directly, right?
Yes, but then all the introspection will have them merged.
What's that?
So when I did this, all the introspection was merged. So if you came to like the GraphQL here, you could see all of them, you know, and that's kind of what I want to avoid.
Yeah. So I mean, like that is usually how supergraphs are organized, but I can understand if we don't want to do that way. I mean, like I think what I'm trying to say is like the supergraph usually is the merge of all the subgraphs, and then if you want to, you can always go to a specific subgraph directly if you want to reduce what is in there, I guess. But anyway, cool.
Happy to change it if people want to approach that.
I think let's stick with this for now. I don't think that we're, luckily, like we're the only consumers of this API so far. So yeah, until we get external, who are using this very specifically, like for now, I think this is fine. Yeah.
Cool. So queries work like this. You can do something like, for example, let me get like myself. You can get obviously like your ID, email, everything, and this will just work. Let's say, for example, I can get like my invitations, which are invitations to my profile. The reference, you can, and this will show to a user. But as you start to see, everything is like in the top level, which is one thing Brea and I were discussing yesterday. And I came up with this issue, which basically investigates the best practices for like GraphQL APIs. And I think there's like the major problem that we have right now is that obviously this is like really flat. There's no relationships. There's not nesting. We don't have pagination. We cannot search. So clearly, this is like first iteration. And then there's two major players, which is that this GitHub inspired design, which has this concept of a node, and every node has an ID. And then between these edges relationship, you are able to traverse the graph, and you can get what you want. The same query would look something like this. You can do it with just like depth, or you can do like a join with like an organizations. But yes, you can more nested, but you can have pagination, you have limits, takes and everything is inside an edges object. And that is like one of the key architectures. And the second one is how Shopify does it. Shopify is like resource centric. Not everything is like a node. You just define your relationship via these like connections. And then connections dictate what is connected to what. You just join these connections in between resources that you think that have this relationship, and you build it that way. There's not a way to do that join because you kind of have to traverse everything until you get what you want. Yeah, those are mostly the two key players. I also have like this quick reference. Oh, yes.
Yeah. So for the Shopify example, does it naturally subset? So if I start in organizations, let's say I've done a filter, so I only want the OSO organization, and then I go to the edge of the organization, and then it goes to notebooks. And in that world, I will only be getting the notebooks for that organization. Whereas if I got notebooks at the top level, it would be for all notebooks that I have access to. Is that the right way to think about it?
Can you repeat that? I lost connection for a second, and I did not get that.
All right, can you reshare your screen?
Yes.
So scroll up a little bit. All right, you see how you have organizations, users, and notebooks at the top level in green?
Yes.
So I assume if I go for notebooks here and I select all notebooks in the green top level notebooks, I just get all notebooks that I should have access to, right?
Yes.
But then if I go to organizations and I subfilter on, say, the OSO organization, and now and then I go from there to get the edges of that organization, and then I get notebooks as a nested field in there. I'm only getting the notebooks that are part of that organization, right? So those two queries are two different things, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
And I'm still trying to understand what is the material difference between this and the GitHub flavor design. Like one thing that I noticed that I like is that every resource is a top level thing. But here, it looks very similar, right? It's the viewer is me, and then the only top level resource that exists is organization, and then I have to go through that way. Is that right, or am I not thinking about that right?
Yeah, basically the difference as well is that everything is like a node, so it's this interface that you build on, and there's like
Oh, I see. A node can be any kind of resource.
Anything. Yeah.
And everything, as you can see here, is like an onion, of everything. So you just have to, it's basically
Yeah. So it's you have to specify the type when you're in the node, right?
Yes, you can see
like
here.
But otherwise, I feel like this node thing is the same thing as the Shopify thing, except for them it's a union type as opposed to explicit types. Is that right?
I would say so, yes.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's very similar, it seems like.
Yes.
And then the other difference that's really different is there's this special primitive called viewer, which just gives me my stuff.
Yes.
So node is how I explore the universe, and viewer is how I just explore my stuff, right?
Yes.
And that partitioning doesn't exist in Shopify. Is that right?
That is correct, yes.
Like, what if we had the best of both worlds, which is you have a viewer.
I was thinking about this
but
too.
Then you also have explicit, node types.
Yes.
For every resource type. Like.
Yeah, I'm also kind of inclined to this as well, because viewer or like self or something, right? Like
self, yeah.
Yeah, like some sort of notion of that, because then looking at like your own settings, right? Like personal set. Yeah, it also semantically it makes sense, right? Like I'd like to look at my settings, like what if I have specific editor settings? Like that's should be on user, viewer, whatever, like me, whatever that is,
Yeah, I do like the viewer semantics, and then
then the node being everything unioned is unnecessary complexity, I feel like.
Because then I have to have dynamic checks on the node type
to
know what kind of field
is unnecessary complexity there.
Like it's just a layer of indirection.
Mm-hmm.
Ikro, what are your thoughts? And Javi, also, I'm curious, what do you like?
So I actually like GitHub approach, as you said, with like the viewer stuff, because we will need to like see your own stuff. Like in the future, we want to have preferences, feature flags, everything, and it makes a lot of sense to have that entry point for yourself. I think that, I agree. We should get the best of of both worlds. Having like an onion with everything and just having to narrow it seems like extra necessary work. I just think that if we add like a self to this approach, this is how we should do it.
I also think the self could just be a short, like a syntactic sugar, right?
Yeah,
It's like-
that's. I think that's all it really is,
because
right? Yeah.
it literally is the same resolver for organizations or the same resolver for notebooks, just with the filter
With a
preprocessor.
specific, yeah, with a specific context of user, you know, like
Yeah.
belongs to user kind of thing, right? Yeah.
Mm. I feel like this approach, Shopify inspired approach, already has this in the resolver without the self, right? Like in each resolver, we check like if self has permission. I don't
Yes.
Well, like in like the like an example would be, let's say we have public organizations, and I want to know which ones are organizations that I'm a part of, right? So the
Mhm.
self dot organizations would just be the ones that show up in my picker, but I might be able to make queries on any organization in the world because we're moving towards a GitHub style like public organization page, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that's the difference.
That's probably the biggest difference, right? Because GitHub does have public data as well, right? So that is, yeah, that's why they
But
that's
we're-
why they need that. Yeah,
think
and
we're
so I
also
think, yeah,
moving in that direction.
yeah, exactly. No, that's sorry. I mean, biggest difference between Shopify
Yeah.
and because Shopify is very much this is just about you. Like,
Yeah. I think that's right. Yeah, I think that's right. If we were in a world where we had no public pages and these were all just enterprise accounts, then yeah, if I query organizations, then I would never be able to query any organization. I should just only be able to get this, like in the Shopify world, I only get the stuff that I'm a part of, or I only get the notebooks that I'm a part of.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
I think in this, the reason why we need a hybrid approach is because I should be able to query any notebook, any public notebook in the world, right?
Mhm.
Like I should be able to get the preview image for any notebook in the world that's a public
Yeah,
notebook.
any public resource for anything.
Yeah,
You should
even
be
if
able to
I'm
see.
not a member of one of the organizations that owns it.
I see. So when you're accessing self, the only check you do is if you are part.
Like,
Of an organization
yeah.
that owns the resource.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then if you go through the other nodes, you would check both public and also if you have access by if you have
Yes.
access by either public means or private means.
I think so, yeah.
Quick question for you, Javi. In the GitHub inspired design, under self or under viewer, does that schema mirror? Okay, so there's something that's different here. So for viewer, I get the user specific stuff like my email and my full name. But does
Organization
mirror everything else that's at root? You see what I'm saying? Like, does the schema mirror exactly what's already at root? It's just like under
Nested
self.
inside self. I think it does, yes. But then it's the filter of like, do I have access to it?
Yeah. So in this world, I would mirror everything at root. I would have viewer.organizations and viewer.notebooks and viewer.users.
Invitations, yeah.
But I only have access, to the things that I own or I'm an organization member of.
Mhm.
Okay, so really it's just a shorthand.
Mhm.
Yeah, hopefully viewer, the way that we implement viewer just reuses a lot of code, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine so. I mean, we could also just link those two functions together, you know?
Right, because then you're gonna have to do all the edges and all the relationships, and you're gonna have to like, all that like nested resolution. You just reuse the logic. Okay, cool.
but I have one question which was related to my PR, which was, so I have this catalog data that I want. So it's just like a list of catalogs, which each one has a list of schemas, which each one has a list of tables, and each one has a list of columns. So just like a small tree, but I didn't want to expose them as nodes, or maybe I do want, because I wanted to do everything in the same Trino query. I don't want to make them separate
Mm-hmm.
and have the user do multiple Trino queries. You see what I mean? So what I did, I just created the query instead of creating the types. Like, I'm not sure if that's how you're supposed to do it, or like I didn't want to do the join. Like, it feels like joins are different, end up being different queries to the database, like to the backend.
Oh, I mean, I see. So you're thinking about in terms of how one would expose this in GraphQL, like, I mean, I don't know that I would say if the operation is cheap enough, like if you just get everything and then just it's more about the representation as you send it back. Like the user's just asking for the representation as you send it back. But if you've already grabbed the graph, like it's just up to us on the representation side to filter out the stuff that's unnecessary. So, but you know, if the query doesn't have to be multiple joins, or it is multiple joins, but you're just trying to, you know, it's fast enough to do it immediately. Like I would say that is less work.
I think it's
Yeah.
a separation of concerns. Like my understanding of this architecture that feels fundamentally different than OSO App Client is like in OSO App Client, every single method call was effectively a single query, and you're mapping queries to actions, like fetching actions. Whereas like here, is like the fundamental thing is not the query and not the fetching action. It's like the hierarchy of relationships. And then all of the resolver logic in the back end can be unoptimized or super optimized. That's kind of like up to us as implementers. Like if we know, like we could write optimal queries that, you know, do things in different ways depending on which fields are present.
Yeah. But yeah, I think eagerly joining on certain things, especially if it just makes it easier for you to write it, like why not?
Yeah.
As long as it's not like, oh yeah, eagerly joining on this is going to cause like querying the entire data warehouse, you know, like yeah.
Well, this is all in Postgres, so it's
Yeah.
not the end of the world.
Oh,
We're
yeah.
not talking about Trino joins.
Yeah.
Except for the ones that I guess what Ikro is saying is some of these things.
Some of these you need to call Trino, right?
But
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's I don't know if you got I misspoke, but I don't feel like I have the answer that I wanted. It's just like
Sorry. It's our bad then.
like when you're building these relationships, it like you need to figure out like how do I get a notebook by the ID or something, and then you say, oh, you get the notebook by the ID by querying Supabase, and then I could do this for the schema tables, etc. But I only want to hit Trino once. I don't want to be hitting Trino more than once because it's gonna be slow already. So what I did is a single method that grabs everything. Because I didn't want to create the hierarchy, because the hierarchy means Trino will be hit more than once.
I see.
Wait, could you give me a clear example of one where Trino would be hit more than once in this architecture?
Like, if I create like, oh, you have the catalog, you have the schema, you have the table and the columns.
Yeah.
If I leave the resolver to somehow resolve the schema itself, like I need somewhere to query everything once.
You want to bulk resolve all related, like it's like, oh, it's like I want to look at this, I want to look at catalog A, B, C, D, and E, right? Am I understanding this correctly? And then you would rather query Trino once for all of those.
Yes.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Do we not have control over that logic in the resolvers? I thought we did.
Yeah. Couldn't you just do that in the resolver and just like handle that optimization in the resolver?
Yeah, that's what I mean. I've done this. But what I mean, I just created one query, but I haven't created the individual types. So you can't go in, like I haven't created any node, only the query. Like in this example. I guess let me share my screen. Might be easier.
Yeah. I think we need to see the schemata in order to actually understand.
Can you see this?
Yes.
So, for example, in this example, organization member, we define a type called organization member, which we tell them how to resolve this reference if it's referenced by someone else, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like this would be like how to solve an edge or something. But and then we define some, oh, here only mutations, some queries. So
Okay.
in the let me switch range 1 second. In the catalog example, I didn't want to create these queries. Oh, sorry, these types, because I don't want to resolve the edges. Like I never want someone to use an edge to get this catalog, schema, table, etc. Because that would mean for each one query to Trino would be made. So the catalog is just a single query, which is like get all my catalogs. It's impossible to get a single catalog or a single schema or multiple schemas with one ID.
Oh, fine, right? Like, so like in a GraphQL query, you can choose what parameters you allow.
Yeah, no, but what I mean is this the intended way, or do we still want to have these like the nodes, which would be like invitation node or organization member node?
Sorry, I hope there isn't a miscommunication here. When you define a node, when you query that node, you're getting an array of everything you have access to. You're usually not fetching by something. If you want to fetch something by something, you have to pass in a query parameter, and you have to enable query parameters to begin with to do filters, right? So by default, if you have no parameters,
It's always getting
everything.
Yeah. So, so I think that's fine.
So
Even if you did expose like interior stuff, like the edges inside of the relationship of the catalog, it's like catalog and table, blah blah blah. I only want this. Like what we're doing in the resolver is still already just grabbing everything in the catalog anyway, and then everything underneath, like it's up to whatever the catalog resolver is to just deal with that, right? Like that thing can handle it. Doesn't have to be any internal resolver from there, right? Am I understanding that correctly? I believe that's correct, right? Like you don't have to go any even deeper. Like the first resolver to resolve whatever that edge is all that matters.
Yes.
Right. So
yeah, exactly. But because I mapped it as a query,
Mhm.
Gets everything already. I guess
So,
I
yeah.
could.
I think this maps pretty well, right? So similarly here, where in the figure, Hobby has organization, members, notebooks, etc. You would have a top level called catalogs, and then you would also have self.catalogs. And if you do self.catalogs, that's the same thing as what you're doing right now with my catalogs, right?
Yeah. But we wouldn't expose like in the node, like the node table schema or table columns, because that not like the node. What I mean, the node is like the top level node.
Yeah. We don't have to expose that as a top level. That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it makes sense because, like, similarly, sorry, Hobby, where's your diagram again? Or do you mind screen sharing that diagram?
Yes, 100%. This one.
Yeah. So scroll down to the Shopify example.
Shopify, here it is.
Yeah. So for example, in this case, there are organizations that are top level that's similar to catalogs, right? But I don't know that it would ever make sense to have invitations top level. Like invitations are always a subfield of organizations, right? That's similar in terms of like table schemas are always a subfield.
Yes.
That's somewhere, right?
Yeah.
So I think I think it's this. Yeah,
I think
this
it's
matches,
yeah.
right?
I think it's fine. Yeah, I don't see any issue with it.
So basically, we just need a catalogs top level and a self.catalogs.
Yeah, I mean, and worst case scenario, if we get down to it and things need to change, like yeah, we're the only consumers again of this API right now. So
And I would imagine catalogs top level would be like, yeah, anything in the marketplace, basically, right? And then self.catalogs is anything that I'm subscribed to. Is that your mental model, Ikuro?
Sorry, can you repeat? I didn't get the first part.
Top level catalogs would be everything in the marketplace, like anything that's publicly available. And then self.catalogs would be all the catalogs in my organa that I have access to. So that would be things that I'm like data sets that I'm subscribed to. It would be my private data connectors. It would be, yeah, stuff like that.
Yeah, makes sense.
Cool.
Cool.
yeah,
Yeah, and I'm really glad. I don't know if you guys saw the email this morning. Plasmic finally shipped the search for code references. Sorry, Ruben, you were just saying, "Oh, we're the only users. How hard to beat?" It would be so hard to change this without the ability to search for references.
shit. Yeah. Well, thank God that happened. I forgot that was a problem on Plasmic. I gotta be honest. Yeah.
Without that feature, it would be impossible to refactor this. Yeah, I think we're good. Cool. Well, thank you, Javi, for doing this research. These diagrams helped a lot, honestly. Otherwise,
Happy to help.
yeah, it would be very difficult to have this conversation. So thank you for doing that.
Cool. Thank you for that design. It was very, super useful to discussion, and yeah, good to see where we're actually heading.
Are we agreed on like mostly Shopify, but with GitHub style viewer semantics?
Some hybrid-ish, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, cool. I think that makes things clear. And yeah, we can be more selective on what we put a top level root. And some things we only expose as subfield. I think that makes total sense.
Cool.
Yeah.
Exciting.
In that case, how about like for order of operations, let me do this refactor. And then Ikaro, you will have to update your stuff to conform to the new norm, and I will have to update my previous stuff to conform to the new norm. Or should we just merge our stuff and then we can refactor everything together?
There are no users of the GraphQL subgraph.
Yeah.
It's not a huge concern either way.
Yeah.
I think it's more like when we start wiring it up to the front end, you probably want.
Do we have tests?
We don't have tests.
Okay.
We should set up tests.
Yes, we should definitely have some tests, like end to end running it.
Yeah. So I think one conversation that I forget, Javi, if you were there yesterday, we were wondering what is the right division between OSO App Client and just using raw GraphQL, right? And in Plasmic, in the front end, where should we just directly query for GraphQL and where should we be wrap it in an OSO App Client? Does it make sense to you to continue wrapping, for read-only operations, replace OSO data provider with GraphQL fetchers? So for read-only operations, we can just use built-in GraphQL stuff, but still wrap mutations in anything that's an interaction or read-write mutation, wrap that in an OSO App Client so that we can get it in the context menu. Does that make sense to you?
I think so, because I like it's super simple to wire it up, yeah, I think we should keep it that way.
So
Mutation.
if we are sticking to that convention, is the right place to test this stuff still OSO app test, right? Because you already have a ton of end-to-end tests that I don't want to throw those away, right?
Yeah, do those tests does it spin up a Supabase when we run those tests?
Yeah, on Docker.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
So
That's all we need then. Yeah, that's actually all I wanted to know, is that there's a database running.
Yes. So Javi already did the painstaking work of like,
Amazing. All right.
setting
Let's also run Trino.
What's that?
Let's also run Trino in the tests.
Oh God, dear God.
Anyway, what I was saying is, Ikuro already wrote a bunch of seed data that is really helpful for this, and then I think we should just try to salvage and refactor as much of that as we can, right?
Yeah.
If you already have so many edge cases that you thought through, we should not throw those away.
Yeah, I learned with all the RLS fixes that I have to do and wrote the test every time I fix like something weird. So yeah, should be pretty.
No, yeah. Great,
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully Cursor can help with that. Cool. All
Cool.
right. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Can we stop the recording?
Oh yeah. First.
Yeah, I just have a couple things I want to ask.
Wow.
It's not like sensitive or anything.
Secret stuff.
It's not really secret stuff either. It's